On August 7, 2023, He Mei, the chairwoman of the largest immigration agency in Shanghai, the Wailian Group, was arrested by the Shanghai police. She was asked to hand over the information of all past clients. On August 10th, the Shanghai Municipal Public Security Bureau announced the arrest of her and 5 other people. They are being investigated for illegally trading foreign currencies with a value of over 100 million yuan or 15 million US dollars. Miss He and another person were criminally detained, while the remaining 3 were released on bail pending trial. The announcement said that since 2016, in the process of providing immigration services, Wailian Group have been profiting from providing illicit trade of foreign exchange, collecting RMB in China and providing foreign currencies outside China. The online news that the arrested were asked to hand over all client information has sent chills down the spines of some Chinese. It means that Chinese authorities will have all the asset information of the immigration applicants, as well as their personal identities and future whereabouts. Who is most threatened by it? If they are related to the government and state-owned enterprises, or they are the family members of officials and executives of state-run organizations, secretly applying for immigration and transferring assets out of China is a sign of disloyalty. If they are employees and family members of sensitive and classified units, such as research institutes, the military, and science and technology companies that undertake government projects, they will be regarded as disloyal too. Then there are wealthy business owners whose emigration has led to an outflow of capital and the unemployment of many people. These are the types of people that the authorities are currently trying to track down. Why do we make this claim? According to public information, Wailian Group is the largest immigration agency in Shanghai, providing immigration, overseas investment, and education, and other services. For 8 consecutive years, Wailian has obtained the most number of American green cards nationwide. In addition to Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and other Chinese cities, Wailian Group has wholly owned subsidiaries in New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Vancouver, Sydney, Singapore, and Hong Kong. The company advocates the lifestyle of immigration without relocation and claims that its specialty is to research fast immigration, constantly refreshing the immigration speed. Its fastest record for obtaining U.S. immigration is 2 days, the fastest approval for Australian immigration is 1 day, and the fastest landing for Canadian immigration is 1 month in Vancouver. Its fastest record for European clients is 5 days for investment and residence visas without leaving China. It allows them to keep their Chinese identity while having a permanent identity in Europe, which permits them to travel freely to and from 26 countries. So far, Wailian Group has successfully participated in more than 100 investment projects in the U.S., including the Pennsylvania Convention Center, Comcast headquarters in Philadelphia, Time Warner, University Hospital of Cleveland, Hudson 99, Iron Lions Gotham Center, Maryland Center for Foreign Investment, and Landsea Caesar Townhomes, and so on. The method of immigration without relocation, to put it plainly, is to have a foreign passport, make money in China, and leave China upon seeing any signs of trouble. Its target clients are rich people, naked officials, and red-top businessmen who hold public offices in China. Naked officials are officials who have sent their spouses and children overseas and remain in China alone. The rich not only want to get out physically, but they also need to take their assets along. Many countries have an immigration category for investment and entrepreneurship, and an immigration agency must have a channel to help its clients move assets abroad. So it isn't surprising that the Shanghai police have accused Wailian of illegally trading in foreign exchange. Chinese folks have disclosed more insider information about the incident of Wailian Group and the arrest of its owner. A former mainland Chinese journalist tweeted, "The boss of one of China's largest immigration agents has been arrested. It goes back 20 years. All the information of corrupt officials and tycoons who applied for immigration has been seized. Immigration agents and clients will be hit hard. Those who have already fled and still have a lot of assets in China are in danger this time. The huge wealth of unknown origin will be confiscated by all levels of government to keep the government's expenditures running." That is to say, this is a clear signal that the authorities are going to crack down on the group of corrupt officials. Those who have fled abroad may be requested to be extradited or subject to cross-border arrests. It's speculated that the CCP started the investigation because its economy is failing and the government is running out of money. Immigrants have taken a lot of money with them, bleeding the Chinese economy, and the source of many of the immigrants' funds is ambiguous. Although the families and children of those naked officials have emigrated overseas, they still have a lot of interests and assets in China. If these people were tracked down, the Xi administration would have found a thriving field of leaks to harvest. Famous financial blogger Lao Man said that more than half of Chinese immigration agencies offer money transfer services. They introduce clients to underground money shops and charge a commission at a rate of 1,000th. Previously, when there was no rigorous scrutiny, it wasn't a big deal. But now, when money laundering is under strict watch, any investigation into immigration agencies is almost guaranteed to find an offender. None of the ones who have applied for immigration, be it the tycoons or CCP officials, can withstand the strict investigation of money laundering. As for the immigration agency industry, their investigation is much more complicated, involving much deeper water than the anti-corruption campaign currently going on in the medical industry. Recently, the Chinese authorities have launched a sweeping crackdown on medical corruption. Chinese media reported that as of July 2023, at least 155 hospital presidents and 2 chairmen of listed pharmaceutical companies have been arrested. The investigation of them and reviews for all medical workers in various parts of the country is said to go back as far as 20 years. Now the CCP is wielding its scythes at the immigration industry. Will there be revelations of fierce scandals, and how much dark money of the corrupt officials will be uncovered? The CCP has always exercised strict control over the trade of foreign currencies. It has an annual quota for individuals. Each year, a person is allowed to have foreign exchange up to US 50,000, and there is zero tolerance for private trading of foreign exchange. However, a large amount of capital is still leaving China through underground money laundering and other forms at an accelerated speed. In 2016, Chinese media reported that underground money laundering had transferred RMB 900 billion or US 124.9 billion out of China that year. Former Premier Li Keqiang said at a special meeting convened by the State Council that underground money mills were actually departments under the financial institutions of the CCP, and that they were part of the corruption and degradation of the financial system and the government. In recent years, more and more rich Chinese have left. The Private Wealth Migration Report 2023, released in June by London investment immigration consultants Henry Consulting, said China expects an exodus of 13,500 millionaires this year, a trend that Nikkei News reported would take tens of millions of dollars of wealth out of China and further aggravate its economy. As China becomes more strict with foreign exchange outflow, the rich have to take more steps to move their assets. The process is getting more complicated and expensive. Over the past 2 years, the handling fee has risen to as high as 40%. Moving money out of China is now called capital exporting. Today's group of capital exporting people isn't the ruling faction on the capitalist road that appears in the CCP's history, but the people in the chain of transferring assets, the boss of the immigrant company who was arrested. They are part of the industry chain of moving money. For example, the arrested immigration agent is the contemporary capital exporter. At present, there are several major forms of exporting capital out of China. First, virtual or digital currency. In recent years, it has been a relatively popular method of cross-border capital exporting. The process is simple. One buys e-currency in domestic cryptocurrency exchanges and then legally applies for a bank account in foreign countries. Then, one sells it in foreign e-currency exchanges and deposits the money in the foreign bank account. Bitcoin was once fired up as a result of a great demand for such cross-border transfer of funds. China has put much effort into closing loopholes in this area in recent years. Second, fraudulent transactions. This kind of transaction is forged but not necessarily fake, as there may be a real transfer of goods and services. Its intention is to export the capital. For example, in 2015, due to the severity of air pollution in major cities in China, Chinese buyers imported air from Canada. A can of air imported from Banff National Park in Canada became the hot news story at the time. Each can of air was 7.7 liters and sold for about 100 yuan. The Chinese buyers deducted costs, commission, taxes, etc., and deposited the profit earned into his designated account in Canada, thus laundering the money in legitimate trade. The Chinese buyer did receive a bunch of canned air with nothing in it. He could choose to either sell or store them. In any case, the purpose of exporting capital was accomplished. Third, cross-border payment platforms. Online cross-border payment platforms make capital export easier to operate. For example, your business partner can open a few online stores and sell low-cost items at high prices. By making regular online purchases, you can move your money out in this way. The sales become your partner's legitimate business revenues, which can be returned to your overseas accounts. Recently, repeated and cumulatively large transactions on cross-border payment platforms are also subject to more regulation, and the risks and difficulties of being a capital exporter are much greater than just a few years ago, as these tactics have been broadly publicized. The need to use a combination of methods and channels has made the cost of capital flight quite high. In other words, it's becoming increasingly difficult for rich Chinese to flee China. Not only is it harder, but riskier as well. On August 1st, China's Ministry of State Security released an article through WeChat titled, "Anti-spying and anti-espionage require the mobilization of the whole society, calling on the entire society to report spies or suspicious activities. Reporting is made easy and straightforward with a single click of a button, and a reward is offered for successful cases." Catch spies, get rid of traitors. On July 1st, 2023, to celebrate the 102nd anniversary of the founding of the Chinese Communist Party, China's newly amended anti-espionage law came into effect. For the safety of our country as well as ourselves and families, we should take action to report traitors and spies, and once the report succeeds, the state will reward you with a maximum of 500,000 yuan. This is a good thing for the country, for the people, and for ourselves. So why not? The great new cultural revolution has begun. When the two things of catching secret agents and investigating capital outflow are combined together, it has increased the risk and danger for the rich. The potentially disloyal people who happen to be rich are the perfect target for the state police. For them, it's a chance to make a big case involving national security and claim credit in front of their superiors. While penalizing you with a large sum of money, they will be able to get it into their own pockets. Why not? It's a chance to reap the rewards of both fame and fortune. On one hand, Chinese people want to leave China, but the gate is closing. On the other hand, for overseas Chinese who want to return to China, it's getting more risky. On August 9, 2023, a former professor at the Party School of the Central Committee of the CCP tweeted that, according to an insider, Chinese police had asked He Mei to hand over information about all the clients who had applied for immigration in the past few decades. The source reminded all Chinese who have applied for green cards or are holding U.S. passports to consider their own safety and leave China immediately, or not go back to China for the time being. They should stop going back and forth between the US and China. China's new anti-espionage law, which took effect in July 2023, has raised concerns about its vague definition. The government has full authority to interpret the term espionage and can detain and search anyone in China without evidence of a crime. Earlier this month, the CCP called on the entire population to join the fight against espionage and to report anyone they suspect of espionage. A local county police department in Henan province made a promotional video called "Find the Walking 500,000 RMB." In the video, a policewoman walks down the street and randomly stops passers-by for interviews. She chats with them in secret codes or gangsters' language to make sure they aren't spies from overseas.
Palace Jade wine, 180 yuan a glass. The King of Heaven covers the Tiger of Earth. Pagoda subdues the river demon. No sign of a walking object worth 500,000 yuan. Hey, wait a minute. What's a walking object worth 500,000 yuan? A walking object worth 500,000 yuan? Let me explain. According to the law, citizens who have made major contributions in reporting spies or espionage activities are entitled to a reward of up to 500,000 yuan. Spies are lurking around, and they could be a passerby on your way home from work. If you're in a restricted military area and you see someone with video equipment acting suspiciously and continuously posting inappropriate comments online, it's likely that they are worth reporting and you're entitled to a reward of 500,000 yuan. In other words, it's a walking object worth 500,000 yuan. How do you report it? First, call the national hotline 12339. Second, log on to the National Security Report reception platform to submit your report. Let's keep our eyes wide open. Together, we find the walking object near us that's worth 500,000 yuan.
A walking object worth 500,000 yuan is tantamount to saying, "Friend, are you short of money? Let me tell you a way to pick up $500,000 by simply walking on the street. All you have to do is to catch a suspicious person and report him, and you may get $500,000. This is almost like appealing to the masses that they should not regard their classmates, colleagues, and neighbors around them as human beings, but as walking banknotes. In this kind of atmosphere, when people from overseas return to China and see their old acquaintances, they wonder who among them is unemployed, can't afford a mortgage, or become desperate due to personal debt. Is it possible for them to become a walking object worth 500,000 yuan in the eyes of these acquaintances? As for false accusations and reports of untrue leads, there hasn't been any official announcement of penalties or measures to prevent them from happening. There are no consequences if the accusation is false, but if the accusation or report is successful, one can get 100,000 to 500,000 yuan. It'll be a huge gain with no cost and nearly zero risks. For the elite, overseas Chinese in particular, those who have advanced degrees, work in the research departments of large technology companies, or work with core technology entities or in research institutes and laboratories, it is better not to return to China right now. When these people make several trips back to China and when they come back, their employers and host governments don't feel as confident about them. Even if the CCP authorities don't arrest them as secret agents, it's very likely they will force them to serve the CCP through means such as soliciting, enticing, intimidating, or threatening them. This is what happened to the #1 personality of the United Chinese Association of America. Just as the US arrested 2 servicemen suspected of selling military intelligence to the CCP, the president of the American Chinese United Association was found dead in a 5th-floor apartment on Prince Street in Flushing, New York on August 2, 2023. It was said that he had hanged himself with a bedsheet. Many countries have the United Chinese Association and various Chinese associations and groups, hometown associations, etc. They serve as overseas branches of the United Front Work Department of the CCP. They act as CCP agents in foreign countries. When it comes to Hong Kongers and Falun Gong rallies, they stage an aggressive appearance on site. When a Chinese official visits, they organize a welcome event. And when they return to China, they are received by the United Front Work Department. On the surface, they seem to be popular and enjoy all sorts of glories. However, when they get into trouble overseas, for example, being investigated by the host government, the party can't be expected to come to the rescue because they are no longer of any use to the CCP.